Hello and welcome to episode 16 of the Driver's Debrief. I'm your host, Nicholas Patty. Welcome on in to the live stream here on X, or you're watching this recorded on Rumble and YouTube. No matter how you watch, make sure to follow if that's here on X, or go check us out on YouTube and Rumble. Follow, subscribe, like the video, and comment. We're gonna have a few parts of this video where we're gonna encourage your commenting so that we can talk about some of the bits of new car news, and I'm interested in getting y'all's opinions, your feedback on the various new cars. But let's high level look at what cars we have upcoming. We're going to be talking about the new Lotus Emira special editions, a new Polestar, a new M3, the Carrera GT. We have news with the Carrera GT, the Renault 5 Turbo 3E, the Aston Martin Valhalla, and a Ford Escort Mark 1. All this and more on the Driver's Debrief. Let's get into it. So starting off, guys, we have a new Polestar that's been spotted, and let's just say it looks pretty hot, but it's obviously expected to be the competitor to the Tesla Model S. Whoa, slurred right through that. The Tesla Model S and the Porsche Taycan. We're going over to CarWow for this story. It's an electric four-door coupe. It has no rear window, which is just like the Polestar 4. It's expected to have over 400 miles of range. People are anticipating, based off, again, the Polestar 4, that this car will have the 870 horsepower dual motor setup, and it will be on sale in 2025. The design is, I think, is gorgeous. And this is going to be the Polestar 5. The front lights look something that looks like a Lotus or a Cadillac almost, in terms of how the lights are separated above the front bumper line. The wheels look awesome. They actually look like, if you can believe it, a Forge line wheel set that I was ironically looking at for my Camaro. They look great. The roof line is long, very kind of Audi RS7 looking, and then the rear light almost kind of looks like the Cadillac Lyric, if you can believe it. I think it looks great. It's a cool looking car. And I think it definitely blows the what am I trying to say? I think it'll definitely blow the Tesla out of the water in terms of its appeal, but obviously it's then a question of how does that compare to the Taycan? Obviously the Taycan is more expensive than the Teslas. I would argue better looking and worth it, but not to everybody. I would anticipate this Polestar is trying to line up in between the Tesla and the Porsche. Moving on to another cool bit of car news. The Carrera GT has broken its previous Nürburgring Nordschleife time, its official time, by 14 seconds. And you might ask, what did they change to it? Well, nothing that you couldn't change. All they changed was the tire compound. So the car originally came on Michelin Pilot Sports. I believe it was a 4S. But as part of Porsche's recall with the suspension components that they've gone through and revamped, and then obviously issued out to owners, they've also, as kind of as a way to make up for it, as an IOU, Porsche went to Michelin and got Michelin to come up with the Pilot Cup 2s specifically made for the Carrera GT, and they gave out a set to every owner of a Carrera GT. That obviously went through with the recall. So just by changing those tires, Jörg Bergmeister set a 7-minute, 12-second lap, which you may say, yeah, but that's 14 seconds slower than a GTD Mustang. Let me remind you that the Carrera GT only has a hair over 600 horsepower, has 3 pedals, okay? And has a lot less downforce than the Mustang GTD does. So I actually think that 712 lap is more impressive than the Mustang going sub 7 minute, only because you're talking about a car that's just coming up on 20 years old now. All right. Speaking of German cars, let's look at the new M3 that's been spied with spy shots. We do have some confirmed numbers. So the new M3 is going to be all electric alongside the gas models. So from what I can tell, they're not doing hybrid at all. They're going to do their gas powertrain, their hybrid powertrain, two separate M3s. This electric M3 is rumored to have close to 1,000 horsepower. I don't know why. I mean, even if I guess it doesn't matter. Everything is getting stupid high with horsepower. I would say I don't know why you would, but at the same time, why wouldn't you? It has 4 electric motors and it's going on sale in 2028. I will say the spy shots, definitely look them up because the wrap on that car looks awesome. It looks sick. Let's move on to Lotus. You heard me. Lotus Emira Special Editions. So Lotus came out with a special little run of special edition Lotus Emiras, and Lotus did this with the Exige. I don't know, close to 20 years ago, which again seems ridiculous to even say out loud. Where they do special edition Exiges or their current model to celebrate their Formula One heritage. It's just a cosmetic package. It has minimal, if any, performance upgrades. But they do that so that the owners can have something special, right? A numbered special edition car. And of all the teams to offer F1 heritage on a car, Lotus is a team and a brand that has more than anybody. Maybe, okay, other than Ferrari, more than anybody. I will say, though, that obviously Lotus throughout the years has had a lot more special kind of colors and liveries and everything. So I actually think that the Lotus offering in terms of retro liveries is more tempting than a Ferrari, but it's not like I'm in the market for either. So Lotus has 5 special edition Emiras. You can get the Type 99T, which was obviously inspired by Ayrton Senna in his Camel Lotus. You have the Type 97T, which was the John Player Special liveried Ayrton Senna Lotus. You have the Type 86, which was I believe the Essex liveried car. You have the Type 78, which was the first John Player Special car of Mario Andretti. And the Type 25, which is the Jim Clark Lotus 25 homage car. So just for the years, the 99T was 1987, 97T was 1985, Type 86 was 1980, Type 78 was 1977, Type 25 was 1963, to kind of create that image in your mind. So all these cars have retro liveries, obviously the colors, some of the stripes, numbers under the mirror of those cars. And by numbers, I don't mean the plaque or the model number, but I mean literally the car number that it's paying homage to. They look great. I think the Emira is one of the more slept on and underrated kind of budget supercars. Everything that's a driver's car is a competitor to the 911, but I don't think the Emira is a competitor to the 911. It's a lot more in line with what the Alfa Romeo 4C would be if they made one currently. But it's below the MC20 and stuff like that. So, the Lotus Emira Special Edition, super cool. If I had, 80 grand or whatever they are, I'd definitely cop. Moving on to something, my screen just went dark because that's what Motor Trend has done. Going into something that a lot of people are happy with, and I don't remember. I wanted to see if it had been confirmed that they're making this or if this was just a render. Okay, so this is previewing the production model. So you will remember the Renault 5 Turbo from 80s Rally, Group B, everything. It was awesome. And it was kind of the inspiration for the Renault Clio V6 and everything. This is from Motor Trend. The new Renault 5 Turbo E is both delightfully similar to the wide-set ancestor, but very different. They originally showed the concept in 2022, and it looked a lot more like the original Turbo 5. But this version is, as they say, It builds off the Renault 5 EV that's currently on sale in Europe. It's definitely retro, but not obnoxious. They compare it to the Hyundai N75. So Renault has promised it'll feature rear-wheel drive with hub-mounted e-motor installations. The provisional numbers are more than 507 horsepower and a 0 to 62 mile per hour time of 3.5 seconds. And this is obviously after the fact that Carlos Tavares, the previous Stellantis CEO, has been kicked out. So people are hoping that Renault and Stellantis may start to sell more cars in the US because of that. So that's that. Now, okay, so I have two cars that are in this list, the cars that I am mouth-watering over, that I am drooling for. And these two are them. The Aston Martin Valhalla. Wow. This car is one of the most gorgeous cars, regardless of car class, regardless of price point, regardless of competitors. This car is stunning. And this is what I'm just going to say off the top. Okay. When we first had the holy trinity of hypercars with the LaFerrari, the P1, and the 918, those cars were beautiful. They were swoopy. They had typical brand design language in them, meaning that you could find design elements of the McLaren, of the Ferrari, of the Porsche, and trace that into their lower level models. They felt like the cars that were being made by those manufacturers. They weren't as outlandish, as aero dependent. Granted, I know that they were extremely aerodynamic. You had active aero, stuff like that, but that didn't come at the cost of looking gorgeous. And I feel like as of late, that's been something that's lost. For instance, and I am a Porsche fanboy, I think the GT3 RS is hot. I think it looks menacing, but I would not call that a beautiful car by any stretch of the imagination. By any stretch of the imagination. It is a functional car. It is built for racing. It's built for the track. It looks cool. It looks dope. It looks rad, whatever you want to call it. But it's not beautiful, right? This Aston Martin Valhalla is sensational. It's a work of art. So it's obviously over 1,000 horsepower mid-engine Aston Martin supercar. Now here's the other thing. I think it's better looking than the Valkyrie. Going back to my immediately earlier point, the Valkyrie is designed in a wind tunnel first and foremost. To hell with the rest of it. This car doesn't look nearly as like Lego Technic as the Aston Martin Valhalla does. So this car is taking aim directly at Ferrari, Lambo, McLaren, and the new Chevy ZR1. This Valhalla has the same horsepower as the ZR1, but it's at least 300 pounds lighter. So I'm going to go through the Motor Trend rundown real quick here in the first paragraph. The Aston Martin Valhalla, and I quote, "The Aston Martin Valhalla is substantially different than the AM RB 003 concept that previewed back in 2019. That car, which was developed with Red Bull Racing Formula One, sounds genius. It was intended to be powered by the Aston Martin developed 3-liter twin-turbo V6 with a hybrid system. However, this Valhalla in production is a plug-in hybrid with a bespoke flat-plane crank version of the Mercedes 4-liter twin-turbo V8 with a pair of bespoke radial flux permanent magnet motors powering the front wheels and a third motor built into the car's 8-speed dual-clutch transmission." So let's go back. I'm just going to read through this Motor Trend and then we'll sit there and revel in it. Quote, "The flat plane crank V8 features new camshafts and exhaust manifolds as well as a pair of roller bearing twin scroll turbochargers that pump 20% more air than the turbos used in the DBX 707. The result is 836 horsepower plus the 560 cell high performance battery that's used a dielectric non-conductive liquid to keep it cool to add another 248 horsepower. The total system output is identical to the Corvette with 1064 and 811 pound-feet of torque. And the car weighs 3,600 pounds. It does 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds with a top speed of 217. You can, in an EV mode only, drive the Valhalla almost 9 miles using the front motors alone at speeds up to 80 miles an hour. Carbon fiber monocoque tub. Guys, I'm looking through and I'm sure you have, right? If you're listening to this podcast, you're into cars, you're into automotive stuff. This car is seriously gorgeous. It has like MC20 proportions with Aston Martin design language. Curves. The interior is stunning. I would kill to see one of these in person. If you took the Aston Martin DBS Superleggera and you said, like hypercar it with a magic wand, this is what it would be. This is what it would be. It's got 4 exhaust pipes, 2 out the rear kind of deck lid where the glass is normally, and then 2 under the valence, under the rear bumper. Active aero. It is just Formula One inspired floor right in front of the rear wheels if you look closely. It is just gorgeous. There's nothing else to say. It's like the perfect car. Speaking of the perfect car, so for those of y'all that are friends of mine that have listened and to my ramblings and my rantings across several podcasts for years now, whether it was the Clutch Dump or now here at the Driver's Debrief, you'll remember me and my former host Ben. We talked a lot about Porsche Resto Mods, Tuthill, Gunther Works, Singer, and that was obviously he brought a mechanic sensibility to the podcast. Well, Borum Motorworks has just blown anything Porsche related out of the water. You heard me. Sayonara, Porsche Resto Mods. I don't want you. I want this. I want this car. Ladies and gentlemen, the Ford Escort Mark I RS is back. And it has a price tag of $380,000, and they're making 150 of them. Now, Borum has said you can't call this a resto mod, you have to call it a continue mod, and apparently it's been trademarked. This is coming from Forbes. It's been trademarked by Borum because they actually have permission from Ford. And crucially, quote, unlike other resto mods, this car is not built using the chassis or identity of a donor car. This car has continuation chassis numbers like the Ford continuation Cobras, the Shelby Cobras. It comes with a 2-year, 20,000 mile warranty, and it's described as, quote, the ultimate evolution of the Mark I and the RS lineage, a machine crafted for driving enthusiasts. Now, here's the crazy part. Quote, the limited production run of 150 examples will begin in the third quarter of 2025, and there are 2 distinct engine options available. The base has the 1.85 liter twin cam engine producing 185 horsepower connected to a 4-speed manual for a car that weighs 1,700 pounds. Or you can get the 2.1 liter 4-cylinder, 300 horsepower, and it will rev to 10,000 RPM with a 5-speed manual gearbox, a bespoke titanium exhaust, tuned for, quote, performance and exhilarating sound. And it sounds like an absolute riot. You can get it in left-hand drive or right-hand drive based on customer preference. It's got brakes and suspension significantly upgraded. It's got a rear axle made from aluminum and titanium, an advanced limited slip differential, coil-over dampers for improved handling and balance. It has no power steering, no ABS, no traction control, no brake servos. And Borum says, quote, on track, the new Ford Escort Mark I RS delivers a visceral driving experience with controllable oversteer that is perfectly balanced, allowing the driver to break away and hold slides while ensuring that the car is both controllable and predictable, end quote. Borum also goes on and says that the new car will be built to modern automotive standards and tolerances, although it looks just like the original. So they have a reinforced steel body with additional bracing, lightweight carbon fiber hood, trunk lid, all interior substrates. Lightweight forged magnesium wheels are an optional extra. The cabin retains the general feel and layout. It's got a small touchscreen, support for Apple CarPlay. You can get a full roll cage. You can get a 4-point harness. Credit to Alistair Charlton from Forbes for that info. But where can I get $300,000 very quickly? Oh, I'm sorry, $380,000 very quickly. So for those of y'all that don't know, I learned manual in a 1967 Mark II Lotus Cortina with the twin cam, 4-speed. It like the car that inspired the Escort, the car that bred and led to the Escort. I love these cars, and it's such a niche fan base. You know, none of your idiot Instagram and TikTokers that I want a Lamborghini Countach and I want an Aventador SVJ and I want a I want a Huracan, I want a Bugatti. None of those supercar obsessed, flexing, status based car fans would give a shit about a Mark I Escort. But oh my word, is this speaking directly to the type of car people that I want to be friends with, that I want to talk to. And if that's you, comment in this video. Let me know what you think of this Escort, because this thing is just lights out. It's lights out. Wow. Mark I Escort, Aston Martin Valhalla. It's a good week for car news. I'll tell you that much. So with all that said, let's finally move into the cool down room, guys, to wrap this up. Welcome to the viewers in the live stream. I'm happy to have you with me after you seeing me climax about the Ford RS Escort. Climax actually kind of works because Cooper Climax, 60s F1, whatever. All right, cool down room. Tim Kuniskis returns to Ram after having announced his retirement literally not even a year ago. You'll know Tim Kuniskis as the father of the Hellcat. He's coming back to run Ram. The Hearst magazine group buys Motor Trend. That's big news because Hearst owns Car and Driver, Road and Track, all that sort of stuff. Now they own Motor Trend. Skip Barber Racing School has announced it's entering several McLaren GT4 cars into the inaugural season of the McLaren Trophy America Cup. John Watson has announced he's retiring from commentary with SRO World Challenge. You'll know John Watson with his very unique and comforting voice. He did some commentary on F1 TV, obviously a former F1 driver himself from the 70s and 80s, but he's announced he's retiring from commentary. So we'll be sad to see him go. He was actually one of my favorite commentators. I distinctly remember him for every Bathurst 12-hour, all the Nürburgring 24-hour commentaries and stuff. Him and John Hindhaugh and Bob Varsha are like the three most fundamental, kind of formative, and Mike Joy, the four most kind of core commentators that I remember growing up. So we will miss them. Well, not them. We'll miss John Watson from commentary. Obviously, Bob Varsha doesn't do much anymore. Pfaff announces a switch to Lamborghini in IMSA, which, let's just be honest, Pfaff is washed without Porsche. Michelin extends their tire deal with World Endurance Championship to be the exclusive tire of the Hypercar Series through 2029. This is probably, of all the news in the cool down room, the biggest piece of racing news. Trackhouse Racing of NASCAR and MotoGP fame, yeah, you heard me right, NASCAR and MotoGP fame, are partnering with TF Sport to run a Corvette at the Rolex 24. I know you can't see me on the camera and my mic just got very loud. Are you ready for this driver lineup? with Ben Keating, Shane Van Gisbergen, Connor Zilic, and Scott McLaughlin. So I said on Twitter, if they don't get spun and the car doesn't break, they win the race. No question. You cannot find a better driver lineup in all of IMSA with that driver lineup. TF Sport has had some difficulties when it comes to Corvette reliability, so that is a very large possibility. TF Sport may not be able to get that car to the end, but we'll see. I'm excited. Hungaroring, my favorite track in the world, is undergoing extensive renovations in preparation for 2025, repaving most of the track, all of the front stretch grandstand, pit boxes, everything being totally redone. We received the updates for the 2026 F1 car rendering with revised front and rear wings. Everybody's calling this the return to 2006, which if that's the case, Fernando Alonso, F1 world champion, you heard it here first. Raja Karuth returns to the number 71 in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series with Spire Motorsports. Former Juncos Hollinger technical director Ives Turan joins Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing as the chief engineer on the number 15 car of Graham Rahal. And the 2027 IndyCar regulations has been revealed and presented to the teams. We have not received what those are, but it's been presented to the teams so that they can give their feedback to IndyCar and the governing body before those get rolled out. Looking ahead to what's next, we have postseason testing that we'll cover next week. We have January 11th, the Mexico City E-Prix for Formula E, and we'll have the Roar Before the 24 in January. Make sure, and if we can hit 50 subscribers on YouTube, we'll do a 24-hour watch party live stream on YouTube, Drivers Debrief, or here on X, either way. Of the Rolex 24, we'll do a huge watch party, have a lot of fun, drink a lot of beer, try to stay up. So if you're interested in that, make sure to follow here on X or YouTube, whatever, suits your fancy. But that all being said, we got a lot of cool racing coming up. I thought this week was going to be a lot slower. I thought this episode was going to be about 10 minutes, but we had a lot of cool car news. So if you enjoyed this episode at all, make sure to follow here on X. A lot of this info I tweet, quote tweet, engage with during the week. So if you want to stay up to the minute, up to date on these things, make sure to follow and turn on those post notifications. But if you just like the episodes and you want to have your one-stop shop for everything motorsports and automotive related, make sure to follow on YouTube and on Rumble at Drivers Debrief. I'll be uploading this recording as soon as we finish this episode. Subscribe, like the video, and comment what you think of the Aston Martin Valhalla and the Ford Escort Mark 1 RS from Bora Motors. If you have $300,000, let me know. I'd gladly take it. Thank you so much for watching. This has been episode 16 of the Drivers Debrief. I'll see you next time.